to Abstract Marketing's top 10 best practices delivered to you under 10 minutes. This is the third of a 4-part mini-series on meeting structure. I'll cover how to ensure you deliver a powerful presentation about your services. Normally, I start with a story about something I've observed, but this one's about me. When I first started in sales, our boss instructed the entire new hire class to memorize our sales deck. We were going to do a pitch-off to the executive team at the end of the week with $100 in bragging rights going to the winner. Well, during our pitch-off, he was pretty tough on all of us. When I was done, he told me that people are never going to remember everything I say or show them in a 15-minute presentation, much less 40 minutes. He wanted to know what I thought were the 3 to 4 things out of the entire presentation that I could guarantee everyone would remember. He asked if I noticed that the 3 participants stopped taking notes at about 5 minutes into it, if I understood the reason that the CFO had asked his questions. He finished by asking me if I read the book he gave me. Obviously I hadn't, and needless to say, I didn't leave work that day with a crisp $100 bill in my pocket. He spent the next 3 weeks teaching us the value of memorizing our presentation and using something in the book called Trumps, which is actually about increasing retention, not selling. Since then, I've hosted hundreds of webinars and live presentations. I'll tell you the biggest benefit to memorizing your presentation: it literally frees up brain space to allow you to focus on more important things like diving deeper into why someone asked a question, being conversational instead of pitching. And I think more importantly, I've mastered using Trumps, which I'll go into a little bit today. So let's dive into our top 10. And know, if you use these top 10 things in your presentation, they will greatly increase prospect engagement, and your potential customers will always remember exactly what you want them to. First and foremost, you need a sales deck to present your company and the services you provide. Sales decks can project a very professional image of you and your company, and they also give you the opportunity to follow a well-thought-out process to present your services. Next is you need to limit what the prospect sees at any given time. Thought management is critical to increasing engagement. Let me show you an example. If my presentation looked like this, my prospect could be reading the last bullet on the page when I'm still talking about the first. And if there's an audience, I'll guarantee you they're going to be all over the board. But if you build your deck like this and limit what the prospect can see at any given time, you now control the thought process. And you don't move from this point in a presentation to the next point until you and the room are ready to move together. It requires you to memorize your sales deck, but it will absolutely enhance your presentation. As I mentioned earlier, people are not going to remember everything you say or show them. But it's critical when you're creating and delivering your presentation to identify at the most 5 things that you want to ensure that everyone who sees the presentation will take away from your discussion. Now, to make sure that people retain information, writing trumps reading is one of the trumps that I spoke about. And writing something down is literally like retention submit. Try to write the word read and not think about it at all. It's literally impossible. Our brains just don't work that way. So take 2 of your key takeaways and don't ask the prospect, but tell them to write them down as you start the presentation. It could sound something like, grab a pen, will you write down 15% and 100? They're important numbers and I want to make sure we revisit them. Later in your presentation, right before those numbers appear on the slide or the page, ask them, what were the first number that I asked you to write down? Prospect would say 15%. Your response could be that 15% represents the average decrease in overall costs that our clients experience once we partner with them. Later in your discussion, do the same thing to the second number. Now, you've made their brain visit your 2 key takeaways 5 times. They heard you say it, they wrote it down, they saw it on a piece of paper, and they read it out loud and naturally heard themselves when they said it. There is no way that they're not going to remember those 2 key takeaways. Images trump words is another one of those trumps that'll help people retain your key takeaways. The brain processes images 60,000 times faster than words. Let me just show you what I mean. So please pause this video and read this statement twice. Now, if you're like most people, you're probably thinking, what the heck? A newspaper's better than a magazine. Children can do it. Rain is bad. You can use a rock. Now let's see how fast your brain processes it when you see this image. So for one of your key takeaways, make sure that you use images. And they don't necessarily need to be a real image like the one I showed you. You can tell a story that paints an image. The next is talking trumps listening. The person doing the talking is retaining more than the people that are listening. So somewhere in your presentation, plan on getting the prospect to talk about the information on the slide or the page. You could both be looking at a list of services you offer and ask the prospect to talk about which one of those services is most important to them. Then don't interrupt them because they're about to tell you how to sell them. Next on the list is shorter trumps longer. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean have a short presentation. The human brain retains more information if it's presented in chunks. So purposely segment your discussion. Next is you need to plan and practice engagement. In a webinar, the magic number is 2. In a live presentation, if you go more than 5 minutes without getting the audience to engage with you, people are going to start checking out. Next is different trumps same. Never do the same presentation multiple times to the same audience. If you've presented 2 people and they've moved your opportunity up the ladder, you have at least one internal champion on your side. If you do the same presentation with that person in the room, you will lose them. They will quickly realize that they've already seen this show and they will check out, leaving you all on your own. Last but certainly not least is practice, practice, practice. Obviously, you're not going to be able to use trumps every single minute of your discussion. So plan how you're going to present those critical takeaways and practice using the trumps to deliver them. And make sure that you know who in the room is the most important person that you need to engage. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for taking the time to watch this short video on meeting strategy. The next and last video in this series is understanding your next steps. If you have any questions, please reach out to your partner sales manager. And as always, we appreciate your partnership and look forward to continuing to help you grow. Have a great day.